Hey, hey, hey. I'm going to give it a few minutes, let everything start. So let me add to the stage some music while we wait, see if anybody comes in. Even if not, I'll just start. You know, people come late all the time. And then there's my replay crew. So if this is the replay crew, just forward maybe about 10 minutes. We're going to give people time to come on in. Oops.
Deconstruct with me. I'm packing all this trauma, tuning in with database. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap the bell notification so leave a comment, let me see you put the fairy wings on. In this realm we grow and prosper. In this realm come in and be yourself like fairy things. Sprinkling the fairest over your mind, decorating all the minds who search for truth, one piece of love. The black fairy agenda, yeah. It's something that's stuck. Yeah, deconstruct with me, deconstruct with me. Unpacking all this trauma, tuning in with therapy and Patrice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap the bell notifications. I wanna leave a comment, let me see. Put them fairy wings on. In this realm, we grow and prosper. In this realm, come in and be yourself. Black fairy tales, sprinkling the fairest over your mind, liberating all the minds who search for truth. One piece of love, the black fairy agenda, yeah, yeah. It's up and it's stuck, yeah, yeah. Trauma, tuning in with Patrice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that bell notifications on. Leave a comment, let me see you put them fairy wings on. In this realm we grow and prosper. In this realm come in and be yourself. Black fairy teams sprinkling the face over your mind, liberating all the minds who search for truth, one peace and love. The black fairy agenda, yeah. It's up and it's stuck. Deconstruct with me. Unpacking all this trauma, tuning in with Dana Patrice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that bell, notifications on. Leave a comment, let me see you put them fairy wings on. In this realm we grow and prosper. In this realm come in and be yourself. That fairy things sprinkling the fairest over your mind, liberating all the minds who search for truth, one piece of love. The black fairy agenda, yeah, it's up and it's stuck. It's rock. Come in and be yourself. Black fairy tales, sprinkling the fairest over your mind, liberating all the minds who search for truth, one piece of love. The black fairy agenda, yeah, it's up and it's stuck. Deconstruct with me, deconstruct with me. I'm packing all this trauma, tuning in with Dana Patrice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that bell, notifications on. Leave a comment, let me see you put them fairy wings on. In this realm we grow and prosper. In this realm come in and be yourself. black fairy tales, sprinkling the fairness over your mind, liberating all the minds. We search for truth, one peace, and love. The black fairy agenda, yeah. Suck and suck. It's suck and suck. Unpacking all this drama, tuning in with brand new pictures. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that bell. Notifications on, leave a comment. Let me see you put them fairy wings on. In this round we grow and prosper. In this round come in and be yourself. Black fairy teens, sprinkling the fairness over your mind, liberating all the minds. We search for truth, for peace and love. The black fairy agenda, yeah. Suck and stop. Suck and suck. Suck and nipple, baby, yeah. Suck and suck. The black fairy agenda, yeah. The fairy agenda. The fairy agenda. The fairy agenda. It's up and me.
I'm going to start actually just when this finishes off. And we're going to start talking about this Bible story. Okay, remove. Oh, you see here. Let me just close it. Okay, guys. I don't even know. I think there's one person in the room. Hello. Maybe you can't say hi, but say hi if you can in the chat. I wanted to talk about Esther, and here's why. Someone came through in the comments the other day, as they always do, a Christian, of course, painting Esther as some leader chosen by God. I feel like maybe it was supposed to mean that, it would be a story of a woman that God chose and what she went through. And I thought that was interesting. I haven't read or even thought about the story of Esther. Did I say Esther or Ruth before? Sorry if I said it Ruth. But I haven't since I was younger, since I was literally in church. And as some of you may know, depending on how long you've been following me, I had this series that I had started called Who Was She Really?, where I really wanted to talk about the women in the Bible. I wanted to look at their stories, and I wanted to really look at it from the perspective of who I am now. Right? Not the indoctrinated mind version of myself, from the church perspective, the one that I was given in church, because they told me how to look at it. So I think it'll be very interesting to go back and read this and see what it actually says. So I'm going to share my screen, of course. And we are going to look at the story of Ruth. I believe it is 10 chapters, but I don't think they're too long. I mean, if I cannot go past 2 hours today, so if it is, if it is longer than that, then I will do a part 2 next Sunday, which is my birthday weekend, just so you know. April 4th, 4/4, Saturday is my birthday. Okay, we manifesting, making some changes. But yeah, so that's basically what happened. It got me thinking of the series again, and it's definitely something I want to do. I'm definitely going to do more videos, but I thought, what a cool way to reintroduce it, to do a live about it, especially since she was brought up, right? Like, why not? Let's look at this. I would love to do that. Here we go. I'm trying to. Okay. Let me see how it looks on the screen, y'all. Hold on. Okay, I think this is fine. I think this is fine. So the story of Ruth, chapter 1, right? It says, and I don't know if I'm saying this king's name appropriately. I cannot remember, but I'll just say King Ahasuerus disposes of Queen Vashti. Interesting. The story starts with a woman being thrown out, but let me not start just yet. I'm giving it a fresh opportunity, a fresh chance, and we're going to see. Because, I mean, she did also, like Esther, received her own book, so clearly an important part of biblical history. So let's see. Verse 1. This happened in the days of Ahasuerus, the same Ahasuerus who ruled over 127 provinces from India to Kush. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne in the citadel of Susa, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his officials and ministers. The army of Persia and Media, the nobles, and the governors of the provinces were present. While he displayed the great wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and pomp of his majesty for days, 180 days in all. When these days were completed, the king gave for all the people present in the citadel of Susa, both great and small, a banquet lasting for 7 days. In the court of the garden of the king's palace, there were white cotton curtains and blue hangings tied with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings and marble pillars. There were couches of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and colored stones. Drinks were served in golden goblets, goblets of different kinds, and the royal wine was lavished according to the bounty of the king. Drinking was by ordinance without restraint, for the king had given orders to all the officials of his palace to do as each one desired. Furthermore, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for the women in the palace of King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abgatha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 eunuchs who attended him, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing the royal crown, in order to show the peoples and the officials her beauty, for she was fair to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command conveyed by the eunuchs. At this, the king was enraged, and his anger burned within him. Then the king consulted the sages who knew the laws, for this was the king's procedure toward all who were versed in the law and custom. And those next to him were Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Merez, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 officials of Persia and Media, who had access to the king and sat first in the kingdom. According to the law, what is to be done with Queen Vashti, because she has not performed the command of King Ahasuerus, conveyed by the eunuchs? Then the Memucan said in the presence of the king and the officials, Queen Vashti has done wrong not only to the king, but also to all the officials and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen will be made known to all women, causing them to look with contempt on their husbands, since they will say, King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, and she did not come. This very day, the noble ladies of Persia and Media, who gave heard of the queen's behavior, will rebel against the king's officials, and there will be no end of contempt and wrath. If it pleases the king, let a royal order go out from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, maybe, so that it may not be altered, that Vashti is never again to come before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. So when the decree made by the king is proclaimed throughout all his kingdom, vast as it is, all women will give honor to their husbands, high and low alike. This advice pleased the king and the officials, and the king did Memucan proposed. He did as Memucan proposed, sorry. He sent letters to all the royal provinces, to every province in its own script, and to every people in its own language, declaring that every man should master his own house. So chapter 1, right off the bat, we have a woman who dares to not come when her husband calls. And this causes such an uproar that the king banishes her and replaces her with one better. Not because she particularly did anything wrong, right? Because they didn't mention any laws that they had. It's just, oh, the king commanded her and she didn't come. Like, what woman could do this? This is going to get around town. This is going to from the noblemen to even the most lower class will be affected. If they believe the queen can do this, then why not them, right? Why not speak up to their husbands? So all of this started with a man being intimidated and not liking the fact that a woman had bodily autonomy and did not come when he called her to, even though she was having her own party. Right? It said he entertained the men for 7 days and she entertained the women. So she had her own affairs. She had her own obligations and duties as queen. But because he wanted to show her off and she didn't come hither, he banishes her and sets in motion to replace her. Wow. You know, it's funny. I didn't remember this story when the person first said it. And that's kind of why I wanted to do a blind reaction to it, because I do remember that being the case. But again, the way it was framed to me and the indoctrination of patriarchy and just the patriarchy that is the Christian religion, you know, of course, I believed what they said. And I understood it to be true. And I thought this was a woman's place. And do you see how they put retaliation into it? You know what I mean? Like, these men were so scared of their women, right? What a power to behold. So let's go to chapter 2, right? So this goes right into Esther becoming queen. Because you remember, he sent out like that the word that this king is looking for a new wife. So let's see how this goes, because I have a feeling, but you know, I have a feeling. I kind of remember, but again, I just want to read it and see what it says. So Esther becomes queen. After these things, when the anger of the king Ahasuerus had abated, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be sought out for the king, and let the king appoint commissioners in all the provinces of his kingdom to gather all the beautiful virgins to the harem in the citadel of Susa under custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch." Be queen instead of Vashti. This pleased the king, and he did so. So he's going to round up a bunch of little girls, right, virgins, Um, and I mean, I'm sure there'll be men who, if they are listening, will come into the comments and say, "Oh, you know, a virgin, they could be virgin as they're older." But let's not forget in the Bronze times, right? They wanted virgins, they wanted them untouched, and they thought of them as women from the age that they flowered, right? The age that they started menstruation. We all know girls start menstruation as early as 9. I believe that the youngest child to ever get pregnant was 5. So in these times, it didn't matter. And even in now times, it doesn't matter. In a lot of different cultures and countries that still uphold these type of beliefs, um, they think of them as women. So these women would be young girls. Um, if anything, late teens, and even that is gross. This is an old man king. And 16 and under, yuck. You know what I mean? Like 18 and under, really, to be honest, 19. Honestly, I am, people say I'm eccentric, but I don't think that children should date anyone out of their age group until at least they're after the age of 25, when their frontal lobe is full and they have grown into full maturity as adults. But, you know, people want to tell me I'm wrong for that. But let's get back into the story, right? So now there was a Jew in the citadel of Susa, whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had carried away from Jerusalem among the captives carried away from King Jeconiah of Judah, whom King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had carried away. He had brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his cousin, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was fair and beautiful, and when her father and her mother died, Mordecai adopted her as his own daughter. When the king's order and his edict were proclaimed, and when many young women were gathered in the citadel of Susa in custody of Haggai, Esther was taken into the king's palace and put in custody of Haggai, who had charge of the women. So these girls didn't even have a choice. The king made a decree. It wasn't consensual. Not even Mordecai, if he had not wanted it to happen, could have stopped it, right? There was a decree. All the young virgin girls are coming through, and the king's going to choose one to be the new queen. And that's what it was. These girls couldn't consent, even with their age considering they couldn't consent. And again, this is a girl who is looked at as stoic and a leader. She would have been a child. The young woman pleased him and won his favor, and he quickly provided her with cosmetic treatments and her portion of food, and with 7 chosen maids from the king's palace. And he advanced her and her maids to the best place in the harem. Esther did not reveal her people of kindred, for Mordecai had charged her not to tell. Every day, Mordecai would walk back and forth in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was and how she fared. The turn came for each young woman to go into King Ahasuerus, after being 12 months under the regulations for the women. Since this was the regular period of their cosmetic treatment, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and cosmetics for women, when the young woman went into the king, she was given whatever she asked to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. So they were just like, oh, we're rounding them up. They pretty much prepped them for the king, right? Bathing them in myrrh, making sure that they smell good, and making sure that they have all the cosmetic treatments that they would need. Pretty much grooming them for this king to choose. When the young woman went into the king, she was given, I think I read this, but she was given whatever she asked to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening, she went in. Then in the morning, she came back to the second harem in custody of Shashgaz. Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the concubines. She did not go in to the king again unless the king delighted in her and she was summoned by name. So he was sleeping with these young girls and just doing away with them what he would. And these women, these young girls had no choice. Is this what we are uplifting? Hey, True Reality. Hey, sorry, I was like, oh, you just came through too. I was just like, let me check the comments because I'm reading it on another screen. Hi, thanks for joining me. We talk about Esther, and already we're in chapter 2, and it's already so messed up. It's already so messed up. I'm not surprised, but it was the fact that this is a story, and I was saying this before, that a Christian commenter said was a story of strength and leadership. And here we have a bunch of young girls that the king just took from their homes, right? Decreed it, took these girls from their homes, from their parents, from everything they knew, kept them for 6 months, prepping them for the king, dousing them in oil of myrrh and such, and prepping their bodies, and at no consent. And then he beds them and delights in them and then sends them to the concubine room. It's completely disturbing and disgusting that in 2026, we're talking about how this young girl, Esther, who was taken away from her only parent, which was her uncle, who was completely down with it, by the way. So it's not even like it was a safe space, but her parents died. He took her in, and at the first opportunity honestly, it's not like he had a choice, right? But for me, it seems like he is more concerned of whether or not the king will choose her in regards to what's happening, if she could gain favor. It's like a political move on her uncle's part, which is just gross, right? But I'm gonna continue. So yeah, it said the last verse, I'll just read from the last verse. So it said, in the evening she went in, and he's talking about the young girls that they took. After they prepared them, they would send them into the queen. She went in, and in the morning she came back to the second harem in the custody of another one of the king's eunuchs who was charged of the concubines. So now that she's been no longer a virgin, she's changed from the virgin harem to the concubine harem, because now she's no longer a virgin and she's simply a concubine to be called upon for the king whenever he pleases. And if he never calls her, then he never calls her. She has no life outside of that because she's in this harem. This is gross. So 15, when the turn came for Esther, daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had adopted her as his own daughter, to go in to the king, she asked for nothing except what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who had charge of the women, advised. Now Esther was admired by all who saw her. When Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus in his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign, the king loved Esther more than all the other women. Of all the virgins, she won his favor and devotion, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. This is gross. I was actually thinking about this exact story yesterday. Then I remembered these were all virgins. Sorry, I didn't read the thing, but I could not remember the story fully. I knew it was about a young girl who had to become queen to save her people. That was like all I could remember when this person brought it up. But I remember, like, my mom was big on like the movies. I remember watching the movie Queen Esther and things like that. So as I'm reading it, I'm remembering it. And it's all coming back to me how messed up this truly was. And I know you just came through, but in the first chapter, when he got rid of Queen Vashti, It was simply because she said no when he called for her, right? They have this every year, they have this 7-day banquet. The queen is in charge of the women, the king is in charge of the men. So they're both entertaining people. But he decided, I guess, drunk on the 7th day, he's like, oh, I want my queen to come in here, tell her to put on her crown and come show off and show her beauty so I can show her off in front of all the men here. And she said no. So I was like, yo, Vashti's a bad gal. She's like, you want me to leave what I'm doing? I'm in charge of my own party. I'm supposed to be taking care of the women. I'm supposed to be entertaining them. And you want me to stop what I'm doing to come to where you are and show off how pretty I am for all your drunken men. They've been drinking and eating for 7 days. You think that's what I want to do? So he banished her. And it was not just that he banished her because of what he did to him. And all the men came together because they thought, yo, like, if she does this, what's going to happen with our wives? Like, what? Like, they literally did all this to show women that, oh, if you're too confident in yourself, if you come out of place from our perspective, then we will tear you down. We will replace you. You're easily replaced. Look how many virgins are in the land. Are you serious? This is a story. This is the story they want, and then the man in the commentator, and why I did this video, to say that this shows women in leadership. This shows women in leadership. It's a whole story about a woman being punished because she showed leadership. Yes, Vashti had self-respect. I can never say the guy's name. Assyrius couldn't stand the humiliation he sustained. And he deserved every bit of it. Like, oh my gosh. Like, not this story being like, ooh. So I'm going to continue, though. I'm going to continue because we're on chapter 2 and there's 10. Because I feel like I don't want to go too far because, like, this is a blind reading. Like I said, I haven't read it since I was younger. So, like, my whole mindset is different. So I was really intrigued and I just thought, it would be fun to do it live. And hopefully more people come in. But yes to everything you're saying. So it said, then the king gave a great banquet to all his officials and ministers, Esther's banquet. He also granted a holiday to the provinces and gave gifts with royal liberality. So it says Mordecai discovers a plot. Okay, so when the virgins were being gathered together, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Now, Esther had not revealed her kindred of her people, as Mordecai had charged of her, right? Because he asked her to lie. Like, he sent her in there. This is what I'm saying. Like, the uncle, this is all a political move on his part. Like, he knew she was beautiful and gorgeous, like, at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's what this book says. Like, she was so beautiful. Everybody was enamored with her. So he knew that he had, like, he just knew, like, I'm going to send her in there. He going to like her for sure. Like, look how beautiful she is. He going to like her. So I'm going to send her in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's so, like, all of this is just gross. But anyway, so it said now she had not, so he told her to not say anything. I don't know if he maybe told her to lie, but to me, keeping information is also lying. But then it never said that anybody asked her either, right? Nobody asked her as well. So there's that. She didn't really have to lie. Nobody asked her where you're from. She was amongst the virgins that were taken, right? And as I said, they were all taken by force. Like, they decreed that all the virgin girls were going to come and he was going to have at it with them. And they were his now, and he would go in them, and if he liked them, he liked them, and if he didn't, he never summoned them again, and they were just a part of those concubines. It's just all gross. So for Esther obeyed Mordecai just as she was brought up by him. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the threshold, became angry and conspired to unalive King Ahasuerus. But the matter came to the knowledge of Mordecai, and he told it to Queen Esther. And Esther told the king in the name of Mordecai. When the affair was investigated and found to be so, both men were hung on the pole, It was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. So you see, he's working his way up. Like, she knew she had to go, like, because she said it on the behalf of his household. So now the king is like, I owe you one, big dog. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like, my queen is not only like the most beautiful virgin here, but her uncle, where she's come from, he's giving me this information now that saved my life. Like, honestly, this is all a ratchet. This is all a ratchet story. You know, this is days of our lives right now, is it not? This is giving Beyond the Gates. This is like, yes, true reality. Yes, true reality. It's literally disgusting. And I just keep going back to the commentary, like, leadership. It shows women in leadership. What? She had no control. She's being controlled by her uncle. She has to sleep with the king and do as he says, because obviously all the women saw what was done to Queen Vashti for simply just not doing as he says, right? Like, what are we doing here? So chapter 3. Haman undertakes to destroy the Jews. Oh, I remember this too. It's all coming back to me. As I read, I'm starting to remember. I swear I want to do a movie night where we can watch these movies. Like, these stories are good, but like, these movies are actually really good. They're old as hell, but they're really good. Usually super long. But I would love to do a movie night where we go over and we watch. Like, I love, like, Queen Esther was a really good movie. So was Ruth. I remember watching, what did I watch? Which that one? King Solomon with the Queen of Sheba. Oh my gosh, I love that movie. And it was like if you've seen Moses, the 10 Commandments, same vibe. Right? The old one that used to come on TV, it was like 4 hours long. These movies are long, but they're really good. You know what I mean? The acting was good and the storytelling is good. It just didn't click. Like, this is why I talk about Christianity so much, because it was such an influence in my mind, in my patriarchal upbringing. And now I'm rereading these stories and I'm just like, no wonder. Like, how do you be born in church and not be a pick-me? You know what I mean? I get on Christian women a lot. I get it, but I just wish we would wake up. You know what I mean? Like, because look at this. Like, we're only in chapter 3. And look at the fuckery. I have no other word to say. It's fuckery. Like, I don't know. Okay, we're going to continue. So Haman, I think it's Haman. Haman undertakes to destroy the Jews. Okay. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and did obeisance to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" When they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. They told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, I don't think I'm saying that right. Haman was infuriated. I remember, like, it's all coming back to me. I'm going to do a poll. Like, we have to do a movie night. It has to be. I don't care. I think, like, maybe, like, one day we'll do, like, I do have memberships, but I took it down because I just don't have the time. But, oh, my gosh. So we used to watch old Bible movies with my brother growing up. I think I know the series you're talking about. Those movies are so nostalgic, but I wonder how much I would cringe now. I know I would be cringing. I know I would be, but you're right. Like, it's very nostalgic. So I'm just like, I just think about, like, because me, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. So from sundown Friday night to Sunday, Saturday night, it was Jesus time. Okay. I could not watch TV. I could not listen to secular music, secular TV, none of that. So my mom had this big collection of movies that we could watch because we were allowed to watch Bible stories. You have to be learning about the Lord during this time. You know what I'm saying? So, so I remember sitting at the foot of my mom's bed and, my sister on her side, like, and we would watch these movies. And I remember, like, as I'm like reading the story and I'm like thinking back, I just remember thinking, one, how beautiful Esther was, and just thinking like, wow, she was queen. Like, I wasn't thinking about all this. It was never proposed to me in this way. And so it's just like, and even now I think my mother would still romanticize this story. You know what I mean? Please do it. Yeah. You know what? I definitely want to, like, maybe even I have exams in a couple of weeks, but like maybe after exams, I'll have like a few days off and we'll plan a movie night. We will do it. And maybe we'll watch Queen Esther. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch Queen Esther but I really loved King Solomon and Sheba and Queen Sheba. That one is like one of my favorites. And I think, I liked a lot of I liked watching a lot of the female character stories. I just didn't realize what they were embedding in my mind. Like you said, it's very cringe to think about. So when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow, it infuriated him. But he thought it beneath him to kill only Mordecai. Right? So having been told who Mordecai's people were, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. You know what's funny? They say women are emotional, but how emotional is Haman's response to all this? Like, how emotional is that? One man wouldn't bow to you. Everybody else bows to you. Everybody, even the other Jews, didn't do what Mordecai did. But because what Mordecai did infuriated him so much, this one man who would not bow, he goes out and says, I'm about to annihilate your people. But women are emotional? That's emotional as fuck. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, no heathen indoctrination for the average Christian child. Exactly. And I also remember even the cartoon ones. Like, there was this series called Hanna-Barbera where they, like, there was 3 people. It was, like, 2 white kids. I think the boy was, like, this ginger-headed guy, and the girl was a blonde. And then they had this kind of, like, Indian-looking friend named, like, Mowgli or something like that. And they used to travel it back into biblical times and go back to Bible stories and, like, see what happened. That was also very nostalgic. I think my sister still has those. It's VHS, y'all, okay? She still has them on VHS. It's in her basement somewhere. Anyways, it said, so he plotted to destroy all those people. Super emotional to me. Super emotional. So it says, in the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, which means the lot, before Haman for the day and for the month. And the lot fell on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is certain people scattered and separated among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not appropriate for the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charged the king's business, so that they may put it into the king's treasury. So the man also paid off the king to do it. The man put a hit on a whole genocide of people. Because this one man wouldn't bow to him. And what's weird to me about this, as I'm thinking with what I know now about the Bible, it wouldn't mean anything for him to bow to him, because God had put it in his laws that you are to obey the laws of the land that you live within. So I wonder, like, it didn't say why. Mordecai said he didn't do it because he was a Jew. And it imposed the fact that God, like, says, no other shall bow before me. But God also says that you should obey the laws of the land that you're in. And I believe that's like after, right? This is after the Jewish people have become a people of their own, right? They're Israelites. And they have their own laws. God had given them the laws. So I think it's very weird that like Mordecai is the only Jew, because it didn't say that all Jews were doing this. That's why I said, I'm like, why is he going after everybody when it was the one man? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Obsessed with the Solomon movie, the traditional clothes Queen Sheba has on. Oh my gosh, yes, so tea, so gorgeous. The silks and the linens. And you would definitely see her bathing, even when she didn't need to. Sorry, anyways. Because you know how it was back then. But African people knew how to be clean. Sorry. I shouldn't be so petty. But you should talk about how Solomon ended up worshiping goddesses because of the influence of his wives. Yes! Listen, we have so much, there's so much tea in the Bible. There's so much tea. And it's like, and you know, the whole Old Testament is really God punishing the Israelites for just really not being able to focus on him, loving other gods, loving other rituals and things like that, because we weren't so like sexually tense. We were more sexually liberated and more, you know what I mean? Like we were more like, it was about spirit. It wasn't about this control, especially the control of women, right? I think it's only wise and natural to end up worshiping me too. And I think that's why they had to do what they did with this book in regards to setting women in a place. Like even this story, this is why they don't want women thinking good of themselves. Vashti said, "No, I'm not coming to parade around your drunk friends." And look at how they acted. And then they say women are the emotional ones. You can't even handle a woman telling you, "No, not right now. I'm busy." So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you and the people as well, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict according to all that Haman commanded was written to the king's satraps and to the governors over all the provinces and to the officials of all the people, to every province in its own script and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces, giving orders to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, children and women, in one day, in the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation, calling on all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went quickly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. So all hell breaking loose. Everybody's finding out. Jews all over the land are like, what the hell is going on? Why are we being targeted? Not only are they going to murder us, they're going to annihilate us. That means like done. Every Jew is gone. Not only am I going to annihilate you, I'm also going to steal all your stuff. Plundering, that's what plundering is. You know what I'm saying? All because of one man. So Esther 4. So it says Esther agrees to help the Jews, right? So when Mordecai learned all that had been done, Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went through the city wailing with a loud, bitter cry. Okay, so you started the problem. Now you're crying? Like, you started the problem. Yo, everybody was telling you like, yo, why aren't you bowing? Why aren't you obeying the law? Right? Like, why aren't you obeying the law? Like, the law says to bow to him. What is it to just, give a nod, just bow your head? And this man was like, nah, I'm a Jew. I don't got to do that. He ain't my God. And are you mad thinking that the man started beef with not just you, but everybody that you love? He's like, on God, I don't know if the Jew knows you or not. He's gone. He said, on God, it's on site. I'm going to choose a day. He rolled dice and let it fall on the day, the month, the hour for this man. It's so dramatic. The men are so dramatic. The men are so dramatic in this book. Let's continue. So he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went through the city wailing loud with a loud and bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. In every province, wherever the king's command and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and most of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maids and her eunuchs came and told her, the queen was deeply distressed. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called for the Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what was happening and why. Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree issued in Susa for their destruction, that he might show it to Esther, explain it to her, and charge her to go to the king to make supplication to him and to entreat him for her people. Hathach went and told Esther what Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a message for Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law: to be put to death. Only if the king holds out the gold scepter to someone may that person live. I myself have not been called to come into the king for 30 days. When they told Mordecai what Esther had said, Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not think that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for such a time as this. I'm so mad. Yo, I'm so mad. Mordecai is a bitch ass mother. Mordecai is a bitch. Do you see what he did there? You went and didn't bow. You caused all these problems, and now you're calling her to task to put her life on the line for you. Oh, this is going to come to you all because of you. All because you wouldn't obey the laws of the land that you're living in, right? You are a foreigner in a land. And now you cause all these problems for all these people. And they're all out starving themselves, doing whatever. And where's God? Because honestly, I haven't heard anything from God in this, right? Like God didn't decree anything, say anything. He didn't even come to save you people, likely because what you doing over there anyways? I don't know. But for whatever reason, you are a foreigner living in a foreign land, and you have the audacity to disobey the laws based on principles that you brought with you that don't apply here, right? And then you cause all this trouble for all the people in the land, and you put it on the shoulders of the young girl that you gave away into the king's arms, right? Again, it's all political, right? And he done mess with like, who are you to mess with Haman? He was of a higher status than you. What, I guess his chest was high from saving the king? He thought he couldn't be touched? And mind you, I don't think I read that the king knew it was Mordecai who was the Jew that did it, right? Because Haman just said there is a people that is doing this, right? So it's not like he knew, and he would be like, yo, like, let me work this out with Mordecai because, man, the man saved my life. Let me check on him and see why he's not obeying this law, whatever. So, you know what I mean? I know the way that I retell the story is like crazy. Sacrificing your own niece is crazy for just such a time as this. You manipulate him back. Exactly. Yo, that line got me. I got so mad. Maybe you came to be because for just as time as this. Yeah, you for just as time as this, you were waiting for a good moment to getting good with the king. This was all political on Mordecai's part. Absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. Then Esther said in reply to Mordecai, "Go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will also fast as you do. After I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." Yet another girl who has to put her life on the line. But where are the leaders, man? I thought men were the leaders, right? Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther ordered him. He was shook. Esther's banquet. Okay, this is chapter 5. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, opposite of the king's hall. The king was sitting in his royal throne inside the palace, opposite the entrance of the palace. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won his favor, and he held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther approached and touched the top of the scepter. The king said to her, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even to half of my kingdom it shall be given to you." Then Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet that I have prepared for the king." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly, so that we may do as Esther desires." So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. While they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted you. And what is your request? Even to half of my kingdom it shall be fulfilled. It shall be fulfilled." Then Esther answered, "This is my petition and request. If I have won the king's favor, and it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet that I will prepare for them, and then I will do as the king has said." So I guess she probably scared. Like, I'm scared. Like, let me just come back tomorrow, like, let me just butter you up a little bit more. Let me, because she's what's the point of buying time, right? Like, she's just like, so it says Haman plans to have Mordecai hung. So Haman went out happy that day, happy and in good spirits. Haman went out that day happy and in good spirits. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate and observed that he neither rose nor trembled before him, he was infuriated with Mordecai. So the man kept aggravating him. The man knew that he put out a decree. The man kept aggravating him. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. Then he sent and called for his friends and his wife Zeresh. And Haman recounted to them the splendor of his riches, the number of his sons, and all the promotions which the king had honored him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and the ministers of the king. Haman added, "Even Queen Esther let no one but myself come with the king to the banquet that she prepared. Tomorrow also I am invited by her, together with the king. Yet all this does me no good so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." Look at it, like, this is so petty. Like, you have everything in the world, and you still, like, just because this one man won't, like, it's petty on all ends. And it really shows the ego of men, right? And the entitlement of men. Like, whoever sold us on them being in charge, like, this is why, like, it's so important of critical thinking, because they got me young, you know what I mean? And I understand, like, look at how many women are grown and still believe in this and still think that this is something to be emulated or to learn from, in the sense of what it is to be a woman to a man. And I don't know. So he's bitching. about him being at the gate. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Let a pole 50 cubits high be made. In the morning tell the king to have Mordecai hung on it. Then go to the king to the banquet in good spirits." This advice pleased Haman, and he had the pole made. So he didn't even ask for permission. He just made the pole. He just knew. He's like, oh, yeah, the king's going to be on my side with this. You know what I mean? That male ego is a son of a bitch. Yes, you're right. It's the ego, the need to dominate. Yeah, and that's all I'm seeing this whole time. Like this chapter, Esther is only 10 books. It's only 10 chapters. And all I've seen is just men, like, pretty much like dick sorting each other. Like, you got a big ego, such a huge ego. like all you see is men's ego in this. Like, it's nothing but ego. Like, I have no other word. Like, what is this? And women have paid the price for it, right? Because Vashti said no. Women, a bunch of young virgin girls were taken from their home and had to pay the price for it, right? Even Esther was considered really, like, yes, he named her queen, but he hadn't even called on her for some time. He didn't want to see her for 30 days. She had to dress up, look nice, put on that crown, just like he asked the Vashti, and stand before him. And because she was so beautiful, he said, all right, let me see what she about. Yo, I forgot about her. I was so busy, I forgot, you know? Probably that thing stood up and he said, God damn, I'm gonna definitely see her later. You know what I mean? Let me just see what she's talking about, you know? Look how fast they crumble before the female form, right? So it says the king honors Mordecai. On that night, the king could not sleep, and he gave orders to bring the book of records, the annals, and they were read to the king. It was found written how Mordecai had told about Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the threshold and who had conspired to kill King Ahasuerus. Then the king said, "What honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?" The king's servants who attended him said, "Nothing has been done for him." The king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to speak to the king about having Mordecai hung on the pole that he had prepared for him. So the king's servants told him, Haman is there, standing in the court. The king said, "Let him come in." So you know what's about to happen. Like, do you see? I can't believe this. This story is I really have to get back into the series. Who Was She Really? Because this is crazy. So the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king said to him, "We shall be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor." What shall be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor? Haman said to himself, "Whom would the king wish to honor more than me?" So he's thinking, oh, the king's about to honor me, so he's asking me the question. So Haman said to the king, "For the man whom the king wishes to honor, let the royal robes be brought, which the king has worn, and a horse that the king has ridden, with a royal crown on its head. Let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials. Let him robe the man whom the king wishes to honor, and let him conduct the man on the horseback through the open square of the city, proclaiming before him, 'Thus shall it be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor.'" Then the king said to Haman, "Quickly, take the robes and the horse, and as you have said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Leave out nothing you mentioned." You know that this man was pissed. Again, that ego. He didn't even stop to ask the king who it was for before he started talking his shit and mopping them gums together. He assumed it was him. So boastful, so self-righteous, and says the most lavish, gives and portrays his dream, only to have to bestow it on his enemy who he plans to unalive. Are we serious? Haman was inflated in his head, ended up honoring his enemy. Yo, that's what I'm saying. This is a good story, y'all. Like, I am intrigued. Like, if anything, the Bible has good stories because what? This is insane. This is insane. So, like, even the king, like, leave out nothing you mentioned. And you know he was fuming. So Haman took the robes and the horse and robed Mordecai and led him riding through the open square of the city, proclaiming, "Thus shall it be for the man whom the king wishes to honor." He had to do it. He himself had to parade Mordecai around. How dreadful. How embarrassing. Do you see? And he's still not going to learn his lesson, you know. So it's just like, what is going on? Like, abort plan. It then says, then Mordecai returned to the king's gate. But Haman hurried to this house, mourning and with his head covered. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him, his advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom your downfall has begun, is of the Jewish people, you will not prevail against him, but will surely fall before him." It says Haman's downfall and Mordecai's advancement. Like I said, this is a political story. This story isn't even really truly about Ruth. It's about how the men around her utilized her and abused her, really, to do what to do what they needed to do for her. Like Mordecai, this is a story of an uncle pimping out his niece who happened to fall into his hands because her parents died. She was an orphan. This is insane. Haman's downfall and Mordecai's advancement. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman off to the banquet that Esther had prepared. Like I said, I knew it would only take me a couple hours to get through this story. It's really not that long. But let's continue. So the king and Haman went in to feast with the queen. Queen Esther. On the second day, as they were drinking wine, the king again said to Esther, "What is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted. It shall be granted you. And what is your request? Even half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled." Then Queen Esther answered, "If I have won your favor, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me. That is my petition. End the lives of my people. That is my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. If we had been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would have held my peace. But no enemy can compensate for this damage to the king." Then King Ahasuerus said to the Queen Esther, "Who is he, and where is he? Who has presumed to do this?" Esther said, "A foe and an enemy, this wicked Haman." Then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. The king rose from the feast in the wrath and went into the palace garden, but Haman stayed to beg his life from Queen Esther, for he saw that the king had determined to destroy him. When the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman had thrown himself on the couch where Esther was reclining. And the king said, "Will he even violate the queen in my presence, in my house?" As the words left the mouth of the king, they covered Haman's face. When Harbona, one of the eunuchs in attendance on the king, said, "Look, the very pole that Haman has prepared for Mordecai, whose word saved the king, stands at Haman's house, 50 cubits high." And the king said, "Hang him on that." So they hung Haman on the pole, and he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the anger of the king abated. Wow. You know, see how the man just move up so quickly. The man moved up so quickly. Wow. Mordecai, this is insane. Like he knew, I don't know. It feels like to me, he knew what he was doing. Because when he started beefing with Haman, he knew that he had already been the man to save, to save the king. He knew that. That's why his chest was high, right? That's why his chest was high, because he knew that, like, I saved the king's life. I don't have to bow to nobody. I'm a Jew. We don't do that. And you may think you run things, but I saved the king's life, right? And playing with Haman, causing beef. And what if it didn't work? What if he had chosen to be like Haman, like, what's going on? And Haman telling the story, and he'd be like, sorry, Esther, I love you, but your people gotta go. Like, he's playing with people's lives, right? Mordecai is a master strategist. Exactly. He strategized this whole thing, and he put everything at risk because he wanted to get ahead of everything, right? So it goes into how Esther saves the Jews. On that day, King Ahasuerus gave to Queen Esther the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, and Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was to her. Then the king took off his signet ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. So Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So he won his property, his position. Listen, are you serious? He got his house, the car, the key. He got everything. He is a rich man. Remember, we read before what Haman's status was, and how he and his position, what the king and everything he had given him. That's what Haman had such a big head. Now, the same man who wouldn't bow before everybody else, now everybody is bowing to him, right? Oh, but you were too humble for it. But I'm sure Mordecai is going to go around the street expecting that to be done for him, even by the Jews. I'm sure of it. Took all his assets. Yes, took all his assets. Then Esther spoke again to the king. She fell at his feet, weeping and pleading with him to avert the evil design of Haman the Agagite and the plot that he had devised against the Jews. The king held out the golden scepter to Esther, and Esther rose and stood before the king. She said, if it pleases the king and I have won his favor, and if the thing seems right before the king and I have his approval, let an order be written to revoke the letters devised by Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote giving orders to destroy the Jews who are all in the provinces of the king. For how can I bear to see the calamity that is coming on my people, or how can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? The king Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and to the Mordecai the Jew, because now he's present, right? He's allowed to be there. He's in the king's court. See, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and they have hung him on the pole because he plotted to kill the Jews. You may write as you please with regard to the Jews in the name of the king, and seal it with the king's ring. For an edict written in the name of the king and sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked. The king's secretaries were summoned at that time in the 3rd month, which is the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day, and an edict was written, according to all that Mordecai commanded, to the Jews and to the satraps and to the governors and the officials of the provinces from India to Cush, 127 provinces, to every province in its own script, and to every people in its own language, and also to the Jews in their script and their language. He wrote letters in the name of the king Ahasuerus, sealed them with the king's ring, and sent them to be mounted couriers riding on fast steeds bred from the royal herd. By these letters, the king allowed the Jews who were in every city to assemble and defend their lives, to destroy, to kill, and annihilate any armed force of any people or province that might attack them, their children and their women, and to plunder their goods. On a single day throughout all the province of King Ahasuerus, on the 13th day of the 12th month, was the month of Adar. So wait, why didn't they just cancel it? Why did they still have to genocide each other? Why is it now that the Jews can retaliate against even the king's people? You see, and the thing is, the king isn't being smart about this, because why are you just giving your ring and telling people write whatever you want? Because instead of just saying, from here forward, you will not touch it's touch my people. You will not touch the people of the Jews, because they have one of them have saved me, and one of them is the queen. Whatever reason, stand down. Blah blah blah. It's Jews rise up. And also, if you mess with the Jews, if you come for the Jews, they're allowed to annihilate you, plunder you. Like, this is, again, all ego. There's no reason for this bloodshed at this point. Everybody who had that decree was only doing what they saw the king wanted, because the king's seal on it. This is crazy. Like, that part wasn't even, I don't even think that part was presented to me in that way. From what I remember when I read the story, it was just as I said. They just said, oh, and it could be the children's version that I'm thinking of, because they didn't leave that, they didn't put that in at all, like I'm telling you. And maybe in the older one it was, but again, I'm like crossing references. But it was simply that, they decreed that, save the Jews, they will not be harmed, right? And the settler state of Israel is using this part of the story to perpetuate the ongoing. Exactly. That's true too. Absolutely, they are. It's actually disgusting. It's so gross, and people can't see it. But then people believe that this is true, right? They look at everything going on, and this is my problem with Abrahamic religions, is that they see everything that's going on and take it as fact, because there's certain things that they could point to in the Bible that justify it. So they're sitting around being like, oh, this means that my Jesus is coming, instead of doing something to change and speaking up against it. They want to see these things happen because they think that there's a Jesus coming back to save them. Meanwhile, they're making excuses for the literal genocide of women, children, and men all over the world. So it says, a copy of the writ was to be issued as a decree in every province and published to all people, and the Jews were to be ready on that day to take revenge on their enemies. So the couriers, mounted on their royal steeds, hurried out, urged by the king's command. The decree was issued by the citadel of Susa. Then Mordecai went out from the presence of the king, wearing royal robes of blue and white, with a golden crown and a mantle of fine linen and purple, while the city of Susa shouted and rejoiced. For the Jews were light and gladness, joy and honor. In every province and in every city, wherever the king's command and his edict came, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a festival, a holiday. Furthermore, many of the people of the country professed to be Jews because of the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them. So you see, they were so scared. People started lying, being like, oh, I'm a Jew, don't hurt me. Like, this is justice. This is crazy. This is insanity. This is not good. And again, Esther was manipulated throughout this whole thing. She's not a leader in this. She didn't even write this decree. You know what I mean? To say like, oh, Esther took it upon herself to get vengeance. No, her uncle got the position. Her uncle is now in the king's court. He took the man's position. He took Haman's position from him. So now he was a man of the court of the king with a household and honor. And now he's abusing the power. Right? Esther has nothing in this except using her beauty to get her uncle in and before the king, and a part of the powerful structure, right? That's what I said. This is a political move. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Hold on, I'm just getting some more water. It's a lot of reading. Like I don't know, you guys. I don't know. If you're watching the replay, I hope that you like the video. Tell me what you're thinking. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. We have two more chapters to go. Like I said, it's not long. I didn't think it would take me more than a couple hours. We're going to continue with chapter 9. So the destruction of the enemy of the Jews. So the Jews really do get to destroy these people. Even though it was the house of Haman. Haman has been hung. Like, what is this reverse? Like, I don't understand it. It doesn't make much sense to me. Like, maybe when Haman made that decree, they went through a lot of discrimination from others. So I guess in that sense, maybe there's a little of wanting of vengeance there. But I wonder how they talk about this, because in the sense of like God, because God has not shown up in this story at all. It's not like he came down and even told the king about what happened. The king was just unsettled and just remembered. I'm sure that the people will say that, but the story doesn't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the story doesn't mention God intervening in this story at all. It's all on the back of Ruth, right? It's all on the back of Ruth, and by being manipulated by her uncle. The cat. I don't know how you read this story and see it any other way. So, destruction of the enemy of the Jews. Now in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, in the 13th day, when the king's command and edict were about to be executed, on the very day when the enemies of the Jews hoped to gain power over them, but that had been changed to a day when the Jews would gain power over their foes, the Jews gathered in their cities throughout all of the provinces of King Ahasuerus to kill those who had sought their ruin, and no one could withstand them, because the fear of them had fallen upon all people. All the officials in the provinces, the satraps and the governors and the royal officials who were supporting the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them. So now he's the scary person who's in charge, who's threatening to kill a whole bunch of people. This is crazy. For Mordecai was powerful in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces, because the man Mordecai was growing more and more powerful. So the Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, slaughtering and destroying them, and did as they pleased to those who hated them. In the citadel of Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 people. They killed Parshandatha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Poratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Parmashta, Arisai, Aridai, and Vaizatha, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, but they did not touch the plunder. The very day, the number of those who killed in the citadel of Susa were reporting to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, in the citadel of Susa, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 people and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's promises? Now what is your petition? It shall be granted you. And what further is your request? It shall be fulfilled. Esther said, if it pleases the king, let the Jews who are in Susa be allowed tomorrow also to do according to this day's edict, and let the 10 sons of Haman be hung on the pole. So the king commanded this to be done. A decree was issued in Susa, and the 10 sons of Haman were hung. His kids they didn't even mention his children. Like, how old were they? Like, this is gross. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not one for war. Like, this is so unnecessary. And I mean, maybe in the times, like, you may feel like maybe, like, if I don't get rid of that lineage, they'll come up against me one day. I don't know. There's a lot of things to say, but these are God's people who serve an all-loving God and this is like the Christian perspective, right? Like, this is what you're telling me who this God is, but look at what this God is allowing his people to do. Yes, he didn't intervene to say do it, but he also didn't intervene to say don't do it, right? So the Jews who were in Susa gathered also on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they killed 300 persons in Susa, but they did not touch the plunder. Now the Jews who were in the king's provinces also gathered to defend their lives and gained relief from their enemies and killed 75,000 of those who hated them, but they laid no hands on the plunder. This was on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day they rested and made that day of feasting and gladness. This is like, I don't know, this is awful. This is awful. They definitely didn't tell us this part. You see how they leave out stuff? They be leaving out stuff. They be leaving out stuff. This is gross. So the Feast of Purim inaugurated. But the Jews who were in Susa gathered on the 13th day and on the 14th and rested on the 15th day, making the day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages who live in the open towns, hold the 14th day of the month of Adar as a day for gladness and feasting, a holiday on which they send gifts of food to one another. Mordecai recorded these things and sent letters to all the Jews who were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both near and far, enjoining them that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar and also the 15th day of the same month year by year, as days on which the Jews gained relief from their enemies, and as the month that had been turned for them to sorrow and to gladness, and from mourning into holiday. They should make them days of feasting and gladness, days for sending gifts of food to one another and presents to the poor. So the Jews adopted as a custom what they had begun to do as Mordecai had written to them. So this is something that they did every year, right? Celebrating over a whole mass grave is interesting behavior. Absolutely. Like this is just, I don't know. It's a lot. Like I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't. And you just know, like, because they were plundering, and you know they just don't plunder items. They plunder women. They plunder children. And this is the people. This is God's chosen people. Like, no wonder that they go around doing what they do. They think it's perfectly okay. It's completely in their culture and heritage, according to the book of the Old Testament, the books of the Old Testament. It's really insane. Give me one moment, guys. My daughter's home. Hi. Sorry about the delay, y'all. My daughter just came home from her dad's. I had to give her some hug and some love. But we're almost done. Like I said, we're halfway through chapter 9, and there's only one chapter left. So it says, so they adopted that custom. So it says, for Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to crush and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he gave orders in writing that the wicked plot that he devised against the Jews should come upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hung on the pole. Therefore these days are called Purim, from the word pur. Thus, because of all that was written in his letter, and of what they had faced in this matter, and of what had happened to them, the Jews established and accepted as a custom for themselves and their descendants, and all who joined them, that without fail they would continue to observe 2 days every year, as it is written, and at the time appointed. These days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, province, and city. And these days of Purim shall never fail to disuse against the Jews, among the Jews, nor should the commemoration of these days cease among their descendants. Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Jew, gave full written authority confirming this letter about Purim. Letters were sent wishing peace and security to all the Jews, to all 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, and giving orders that the days of the Purim should be observed at their appointed seasons. As Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen joined on the Jews, just as they had laid down for themselves and for their descendants regulations concerning their fasts and their lamentations. The command of Esther fixed these practices of Purim and was recorded in writing. So, yeah, they made a whole thing of it, a whole holiday, a whole celebration, a whole festival on this BS. I don't know, like, what's 10 about? So it doesn't even have a title. It's just the last chapter. So let's go through it. King Ahasuerus laid tribute on the land and on the islands of the sea, all the acts of his power and might, and the full account of the high honor of Mordecai, to which the king advanced him, are not written in the annals of the king of Media and Persia. For Mordecai the Jew was next in rank to King Ahasuerus. He's next in rank, y'all, to King Ahasuerus, and he was powerful among the Jews and a popular with his many kindred, for he sought the good of his people and interceded for the welfare of all his descendants. And that's it. That's it. Just a short little thing. Like, so they continued in the land. They celebrated every year for those 2 days, and it was so. This was not a book of Esther leading anything. This was her putting her life on the line because other men caused problems, and she was used and manipulated to do so. Because you can't tell me this wasn't Mordecai's plan. Because first he intercepted the king when he got in his position, and he realized he knew it was only a matter of time that the king would recognize him for saving his life. And then when he wouldn't bow, so that's why he didn't care. He's like, I don't got to bow to this man. He can't touch me. You know what I mean? This whole story is not about the women truly at all. It's not even really about Esther. It should have been called Mordecai. Like, dead ass. It should have been called Mordecai. Even Esther wasn't second in rank to the king. She was just a pawn in Mordecai's chess game. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't see how you could see it any other way. Hey, Ashira, no. Sorry, my dog's getting into stuff. But yeah, I don't know. There's nothing much to say. It really is just me and you, True for Reality. So I'll probably just end it here. Unless you have some things you want to say, I don't know, let me know. But that's the story. I am bewildered and amazed that this story is even a thing. I can't believe people point to this and think that this is women leadership. It's male manipulation. It's male ego. Like, yeah, she was labeled queen, but she had no power. Like, she had no power. I don't know. Crazy. But I'm going to end it right here. I have some cleaning to do. I've been doing spring cleaning. I want my place clean because my birthday's on Saturday, the 4th. I'm the 4-4 baby, gateway, doorway, energetically and everything like that. So, happy birthday to me, Aries season. I'm going to be annoying all month. She said, this was an amazing session. Thank you for your discourse. Of course, and we're gonna plan that movie night. I think it would be best to do it after my finals, so that I'm not too overwhelmed and I'm taking a break before I start my next class. We got to do a movie night. I'm gonna look up a few of them, make sure that I can get a link to them. I think if I do a Zoom link, I can share my screen so we can just watch it from my computer. Or something like that. But definitely we will plan a movie night, and maybe I do have a Discord that I never friggin' used or implemented, so maybe we could do it there. I know you can watch movies on Discord as well. You can share your screen or whatever and share the movie, because I think that would be super fun. There are long movies, but I think it would be a lot of fun. So look out for that. I'm going to sometime this week post about it just to get it out there. I know I take long breaks, but it's because I have so much on my plate. I have so much to say, but so much on my plate. Thank you. Thank you so much for the happy birthday. I'll probably see if I can come on live before then, or maybe even the Sunday. I could likely come for maybe a more evening live. But it's Easter Sunday. But I know some of y'all don't celebrate, but some people still go see family and eat food. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do it on the Monday. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a poll about that too. But it was so nice being here with you. Thank you, True Reality, for hanging out with me. Thank you for those of you who are watching the replay. We will talk soon. I love y'all.